Sonicor versus Staticor. Looking at the stats between them, obviously the Staticor has got 80 damage, but it is radiation, whereas the Sonicor is 50 pure impact. Weirdly, the Sonicor still has 0% status, which is just straight up weird, whereas the Staticor has 25. It's got a quicker reload, it's got a bigger magazine. This is the Staticor. It has a higher fire rate. It does have a charge rate, but that's simply because the Staticor is a charge weapon, which is a huge downside to this. Its accuracy is also really slow. Plus, with the Staticor, it can be a bit of a problem weapon because each round has a very, very slow travel time unless you just spam fire. And I do have the same build I had on this before after dropping 5 former in it because I kind of liked this. It worked pretty well, considering it's like just everything's thrown in here. I took no time actually trying to build this into a decent weapon. I kept it purely radiation. The status just over doubled. It does have a decent crit chance at 10%, but trying to increase that was a bit of a waste of time, so I basically just went for fire rate and fire rate. Just increase that fire rate because it increases the charge time with this being a charge-based weapon. The biggest problem, of course, with this thing is the charge time and how long it takes to actually get to an enemy. The best thing to do is literally just spam fire it, and that is one of the biggest problems with this thing. It's the spam firing. Because you are constantly spam firing the thing. Who are you and why are you here? Oh, I can give him this weapon. I may, in a bit. Not right now, I kind of need it. So having to spam fire this thing to make it anywhere near usable can become quite problematic. But the fact it does radiation is a huge plus because those you don't kill will start to fight for you on your side, which is a huge bonus for this thing. I just wish that the flight time was a lot quicker on these. That is the biggest problem I've had with these so far, hence the reason I have that one mod in that is supposed to increase the fire rate of these things. Yeah, the travel time, I should say. The blast radius, turns out, isn't really that bad once you put in a build like this, but it still has the same old problems. And I was not paying attention there at all. So, and spam fire. Spam fire for the win. If this was the Sonicor, you'd be dead. Is this? Yes! I knew there was a reason I brought her with us. Shooting there. And charge and fire! Yeah. It just doesn't have the same blast radius, which is another downside to this. I wanted to love this weapon so much, but honestly it just got to the point where waiting for it to make contact was a pain. Instant improvement to this would be something simple like once you release you can like track them, kind of like Nova's Nova Bomb thing. Once you fire it, it goes to where your reticle is. That would fix this, because once you're fired, if they're not there anymore, you're just wasting rounds, and wasting rounds is never ever a good thing. With the Sonicor, I did go for a bit of a weirder build, throwing on Deep Freeze because it had a D polarity on it, hence the reason Frostbite and Pistol Pestilence are on here to give it 942.5 viral damage. I increased the impact with Pummel, and I just went for basically the same as the other one has, which is Hornet Strike, Magnum Force. Still gonna max that out one day, maybe. Then just multi-shot with Barrel Diffusion and Lethal Torrent. Again, this is not the best of builds because eventually the multi-shot builds that you see here are going to become useless once they add in multi-shot 2.0, where that's going to double how many rounds you fire at once, and this does have a small magazine coming in at 15, so a multi-shot build will make this rather useless. But for now, it works pretty well. Putting the pommel on took it to 1151.9 impact, and plus the way this bounces off the walls, and its area of effect, its blast radius, makes it so much better. But again, this build, it's not the best, it's just what I found works. But when it comes to the Sonicor, well, it's just better in almost every way. It knocks enemies down with ease. It will annihilate almost everything you actually shoot it with pretty well. With, I would say, almost the same amount of formers, because there wasn't really that much in it, and it just takes them out so much more efficiently. And because it has a much wider range, area of effect, blast radius, the word I'm actually looking for, it just has this weird habit of taking out more than one thing at a time. Which is the only reason this thing is better. The Staticor, it's still a hell of a good weapon, but with this thing in existence, even if it was nerfed through the floor, this thing would still be better because it has that wider blast radius, and even if you don't kill them with the first hit, it will knock them over, which just makes the thing so much better. It's the more the knockdown this thing does than it actually killing things. I mean, look at how far that body ragdolled after it was hit. And it's that makes this thing more of an effective weapon than, say, the Staticor. Even though, again, the Staticor is a hell of a good weapon, I just can't help but think if they nerfed it through the floor, it would still be a hell of a good weapon. Just because it will ragdoll them, so it's great for crowd control. And really, there's a lot of the time where crowd control is more important than actually killing them. Because you don't always need to kill the enemies, just knock them over long enough so that you can actually kind of perform a getaway. Ragdolled. And dead. I do love the Sonicor more than any other weapon. Hopefully, one day they will come out with like a primary version that just does a lot more damage. Even if it does exactly the same damage, it would still be a hell of a good weapon.